What is it about serial killers that both horrifies and fascinates us? These are people who committed some of the most unimaginable acts of violence, leaving behind trails of fear and devastation.
You're a loser, you're a coward, you're a nobody, you're an animal.
But how did their own lives end? Did justice catch up to them, or did they meet their fate in other unexpected ways? Today we'll uncover the chilling final moments of 15 of the most notorious serial killers in history.
I've never spoken to anybody about this. I am looking for an opportunity to tell the story as best I can.
Brace yourself as we delve into how these infamous murderers met their ultimate end, the deaths of 15 of the most well-known serial killers. Can evil be charming? Ted Bundy certainly made it seem that way. His boy-next-door looks and charisma masked the monstrous reality beneath, a man responsible for the brutal murders of at least 30 women. After years of eluding the law, Bundy's reign of terror ended on January 24, 1989, when he was executed by electric chair in Florida. The anticipation around his death was unlike anything else. Crowds gathered outside, cheering as the clock ticked down. Though Bundy fought to delay his fate, offering confessions to extend his life, justice finally caught up with him. In that moment, the world witnessed the fall of one of its most infamous predators. What happens when a monster meets his own violent end? Jeffrey Dahmer, responsible for the gruesome murders and cannibalism of 17 young men, was one of the most reviled killers of the 20th century. But prison would become his final chapter. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. His end was brutal, fitting for a man who had committed unspeakable atrocities. Dahmer, who once controlled life and death, met his own demise in the very place meant to contain his evil. It's a chilling reminder that even behind bars, no one is truly safe.
What were your fantasies about?
They were sexual fantasies of control, power, complete dominance. They became reality.
Was there pleasure in that fantasy?
There was excitement, fear, pleasure, all mixed together.
Known as the Butcher of Rostov, Andrei Chikatilo terrorized Soviet Russia, brutally murdering 52 people, mostly women and children. His killings were marked by their sadistic nature, leaving the nation horrified. After his arrest and trial, Chikatilo remained emotionless as the death sentence was handed down. On February 14, 1994, his fate was sealed, execution by a single gunshot to the head. Unlike his victims, Chikatilo's death was swift, devoid of the pain he inflicted on so many. The bullet that ended his life marked the final chapter of one of the darkest figures in modern history.
Loser, you're a coward, you're a nobody, you're an animal.
How does a man responsible for 49 confirmed murders escape the death penalty? Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, left a trail of bodies across Washington state for decades. Despite his horrific crimes, Ridgway avoided execution by striking a deal, confessing to his crimes in exchange for life in prison without parole. On November 5, 2003, Ridgway pled guilty to the murders, sealing his fate as he was sentenced to life in the Washington State Penitentiary. While his victims never got the justice of seeing him put to death, Ridgway now spends his days in isolation, a grim existence for a man who once lived to kill.
sabotaged my society and the cops and the system. A raped woman got executed and was used for books and movies and ladder climbs, her election, everything else.
Ever wonder what drives someone to become one of America's most notorious killers? For Aileen Wuornos, it was a life marked by hardship and abuse that seemed to push her to the edge. Born in 1956, Wuornos's tragic story led her to a violent path, where she killed 7 men between 1989 and 1990, claiming they had assaulted her while she worked as a sex worker. Her murders were brutal, often involving point-blank gunshots, and her case quickly gripped the nation. Convicted in 1992, Wuornos was sentenced to death, and despite numerous appeals and intense media coverage, she was executed by lethal injection on October 9, 2002. Her last words were chillingly cryptic, "I'll be back with Jesus." Wuornos's story remains one of the most unsettling and complicated tales of modern serial killers. Pedro Alonso Lopez, dubbed the Monster of the Andes, may have the highest confirmed body count of any serial killer, more than 300 young girls across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Yet, his story doesn't end with a death sentence. In a shocking twist, Lopez was released from an Ecuadorian prison in 1994 for good behavior after serving just 14 years. His current whereabouts are unknown, though rumors persist that he may have continued killing. Lopez's ability to evade justice, even after such unspeakable crimes, is a haunting reminder of the failures in the system. His death, whenever it comes, will likely be shrouded in mystery. What happens when the person you trust most with your life turns out to be the one taking it away? Harold Shipman, a respected British doctor, became infamous as Dr. Death for the chilling murders he carried out under the guise of medical care. Shipman is believed to have ended the lives of nearly 250 patients, though he was convicted of 15 murders in 2000. For years, his killing spree went unnoticed, with many of his victims' deaths attributed to natural causes. But an investigation eventually uncovered the horrifying pattern, and Shipman was sentenced to life in prison. In 2004, his story came to an end when he was discovered lifeless in his prison cell, leaving behind countless families still seeking closure. Shipman remains one of history's most notorious serial killers, a sinister example of betrayal hidden in plain sight. Have you ever heard of a serial killer so twisted that his goal was to fill every square on a chessboard with a victim? Alexander Pichushkin, the Chessboard Killer, claimed he wanted to reach 64 murders, one for each square. Operating in Moscow's Bitsa Park, he lured victims with vodka, then brutally attacked them. By the time he was caught in 2006, he had confessed to 60 murders, though he'd officially be convicted for 48. During his trial, he showed little remorse, even calling each murder a life fulfilled. Today, Pichushkin sits in Russia's infamous Black Dolphin prison, where he's held under maximum security for life, a chilling end, yet far from the death many of his victims faced. These 15 killers left behind legacies of terror, but their ends remind us that even the most brutal criminals cannot escape death. Whether through execution, illness, or even taking their own lives, they all met their fate eventually. Which of their stories shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more dark dives into the world's most infamous criminals. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, even the most notorious killers couldn't outrun their fate.